Over 3,000 years ago, ancient Egypt, one of the most powerful empires of all time. During its 18th dynasty, a young boy just 9 years old ascended the throne. His name was Tutankhamun. King Tut might have remained a minor footnote in history, but for an amazing discovery in the 1920s. British archaeologist Howard Carter made a remarkable find. A stunning tomb of gold and artifacts, the trappings of a pharaoh whose people saw him as a living god. Tut's predecessor, the pharaoh Akhenaten, who may have been his father, created turmoil by replacing Egypt's many gods with only one, the Aten, or sun disk. Tutankhamun's plans to restore the traditional beliefs were cut short when he died unexpectedly at just 19 years of age.
What was that? Did that grab your attention a bit? As Rachel was saying, she has to tell stories to her children to influence them to do something, to teach them something for their benefit. Now, storytelling is, since the dawn of history, has been there to relay knowledge from one generation to another. This knowledge does not only include information, but it includes rituals, information about the ecosystem, information about the old traditions and beliefs of the cultures, and it's passed down from one generation to another. Now, how many of you are teachers here? I know we've met an early education now with this previous panel. How many are teachers with the foundation stage? How many of you are teachers? Just one. Oh, two. Okay. Do you usually tell your children or students stories to grab their attention? Yes? And does that have an impact on them? Do they start sharing with you? Good, okay. Now, so stories have been passed on from one generation to another, and it tells us the history of our ancestors. Next, we're going to walk you through with how this keynote is going to go. We're going to go through the practical side first, and then my colleague here, Mrs. Nadia, will do the practical side. We'll show you actual videos of how we have implemented the digital storytelling with our students. And by the way, storytelling is not only for English teachers, because we are literature teachers and this is our passion, but it could also be with any other subject area. Now, how would you want to grab the attention of a child or a teenager or a high school student, except if you grab his attention by telling them a story relating to their age and relating to their generation? Now, every child today is in his own bubble with the technology equipment he has. They don't even socialize with each other. They socialize even with their parents through WhatsApp and Instagram and all that. They don't have time actually to interact with each other. So storytelling and digital storytelling nowadays is the means of getting them more engaged. Okay, as George and Shive said, storytelling is significantly even more effective to learn about prose novels than watching the film. And this is what you're going to see at the end, how we actually prove that. Sometimes, as Rachel was saying, you have to make up stories. Myself, I make up stories for my grandchildren to relay a certain moral, or to, as Rachel was saying, influence them to do something right. Okay, let's think of storytelling as teachers. Instead of, we have a curriculum to cover, so instead of thinking of all that material, let's think of ourselves as storytellers to relay that material to our students. Okay, if we look at the advantages of storytelling, it helps us interact, students interact with each other, and they get the students' attention. You grab the students' attention. Also, providing stronger connection between you as a teacher and your students, and between the students and each other, instead of living in their own bubble. Giving students who are, the shy student that doesn't want to raise his hand, giving him the opportunity to express himself and to collaborate with his colleagues. If we come to the digital age, we have challenges now. What are the main obstacles? We have student engagement. They will not be engaged normally in this digitalized age, but the solution would be provide them with digitalized storytelling as a pedagogical approach to learning. There was a case study in Australia where in a secondary and primary school they conducted this strategy using digitalized storytelling. And the findings were that this encouraged a lot of 21st century skills like creativity, problem-solving skills, collaboration, interpersonal skills as well, which is required in our field of career. If we see merging technology with the traditional storytelling, creates for student opportunities to use the technology, which they love to do, developing their creativity and problem-solving skills, collaboration, and self-motivated, self-confident students. Enabling those students to create their own digital stories. Just give them the topic, even if it's in the science or the math, and ask them to create their own story on that topic. You'll find it amazing. One of the things we did is actually do that in the, an English high school class, and it's a very simple digital story, but it was amazing how they, the product, what they did. It also fosters their writing, which nowadays we find very difficult. If there's, is there any English teacher here in the room? Okay. What is the most difficult part of English that you find in teaching? Getting students to read and writing. Writing is that's our challenge. Yeah, okay. So this helps. Try using digital storytelling. It will nurture their writing, because they will have to write scripts for their story. So it will help them in the writing, and storyboards also are very important. It will nurture and it will develop their writing skills too. Creating positive relationship, as we said before, between you as a teacher and the students themselves. And students tend to have, some of the students tend to be anxious when they go into a class of a subject that they don't like. For example, I myself, sorry if there's any math teacher here, but I really had a lot of anxiety going into a physics or a math class. So if you start your class by storytelling, that would relieve your students' anxiety. I didn't have that like 50 years ago. Okay. And of course, promoting a sense of community, sense of belonging, the working together, and so on. are a couple of types of storytelling that you could use in this time of our digital storytelling. Personal narratives, even if it's like made-up personal narratives, or historical documentaries, as you see in a while. I'll turn over the floor to Mrs. Nadia to talk more about the pedagogical strategies used to enhance digitalized storytelling.
As Sherine said, that I always like to start my classes with a story. It could be a story about personal experience that happened to me. It could be a myth. It could be a historical event. It has to be related to the topic that I will be teaching. We are all teachers, whether at home, at school, wherever we go, fathers and mothers, females and males, we are all teachers. We tell stories every day. We are doing it without knowing or realizing that we are doing it. Even among friends, we tell stories. With the stories, I'm touching the core of your heart and brain. With the stories, I'm evoking and provoking my students' emotional intelligence. With the stories, students see themselves in similar situations, visualize and imagine what would they do or what they have done. Stories, a tool to educate and entertain. It is a strategy to touch our students and connect and bond with them. Storytelling, it's not only about using tools, digital tools like pictures, images, audio recording, music, whatever. No, it's about the skills of how to use those tools. Storytelling is not just about media producing a lovely video with nice pictures. Know how these pictures tell a meaning? Do they tell a meaning? Is there a message that I want to deliver within those tools that I'm using? Storytelling is not just about telling a story. It's just about how we work, collaborate in a social dimension circle. Storytelling is not just an isolated story. We share, we talk, we laugh, we evaluate, we assess together the information that we will be producing and learning. Storytelling is not about transfer of knowledge. It is about amplification. It's not about substituting stories, just giving a story. It's about the transformation of values and hidden messages to make our students understand and evaluate what they are doing. Okay, now we have a classroom here full of diverse elements of people with learner characteristics. We are all different from one another. So now just look at your learner characteristic and see what strategy do you need with it? If I'm a technology savvy, my student is a technology savvy, then the strategy that I use with him, that I incorporate technology into class activities and assignment. If my students depend on looking for information on search engines, then I provide him with assignments that allow students to use search engines and evaluate and criticize their work. If my students are interested in multimedia, and the only way to communicate with knowledge and information by visualizing it, and I have a low attention span, then also I allow him to contribute to websites, blogs, wikis, and create YouTube videos. If my student likes to create internet content, then I allow them to research for digital topics, locate images, music, video clips that could be included in their content to make it interest. If my students learn by inductive discovery, then I allow them to use images, videos, and other visual representations in assignment, and encourage personal interaction and opinion sharing. If my students like to listen to feedback, constructive feedback is a must. Whether negative or positive, we all know that the effect and the impact of constructive feedback on our students. Now I would like to tell you something very important. My students this year, I used the digital storytelling strategy with them to teach them how to grasp the information. I provided a group of students 7 topics, not related to, what's so funny about it, they were not related whatsoever to one another. I gave them a topic about unemployment in Egypt, and not using certain numbers when they provide their statistics, but using uncertain numbers. And then I gave them a topic about traffic, heavy traffic. At the peak of the heavy traffic in 2 cities in Egypt, Cairo and Giza. And then I gave them a third topic about the Egyptians, the number of Egyptians who quit smoking. I mean, the topics that I have given them, not related to one another. And I asked them, combine the 7 topics. They were about traffic, unemployment, shopping online, heavy traffic congestion, business in Egypt, and the effect of the inflation on business. I mean, they were not related. Combine them together in one digital storytelling that has a meaning. So this type of story is just for them to educate them how to use their skills to provide a story with a meaning, that has a meaning. And then you will see a second video that was produced 2:15, a personal narrative story. Students produced that story. It's about, we all know Great Gatsby, the novel. it's a little bit indecent story to teach for high school students. But in order to make their life easier and to grasp the information, we agreed upon that their graduation project should be one of Gatsby's parties. How could we produce grade 12 students one of Gatsby's parties with all its elements and components? Students were really very excited about the idea, and they started to choose the topics which matches their interests and to pursue for the knowledge and information about it. Some group of students chose the music during the jazz era, and some of them chose fashion during jazz era. Others chose the dances during the jazz era. Another group of students chose the Great Depression and the impact of Gatsby's parties on the poor people at that time and the effect of this on them. Some group of students chose the finance aspect of the project, how to raise money and how to calculate everything that touches the project in order to produce a big party like the ones of Gatsby, with the decoration, the dances, the music, even the buffet. They wanted a similar buffet like Gatsby's parties. And we had other departments, we asked other departments to help our students, and so we had an integrated projects between the English department, the math department, the psychology department, the international relations department, and so on, and the art department too. I also myself, as a teacher, I stepped in and I insisted on one thing. Our targeted audience were their parents. We invited all the parents and the school leaders for that party. How did I step in? I insisted that the male boys in my class, they will do the role of the footmen. And I will teach them, and I will be their teacher, to teach them how to serve the tables, like the footmen back then in 1920s, not like nowadays. I taught them how to serve the tables, how to serve the drinks, the soft drinks. I taught them how to help the guests to the buffet and to serve the guests with the items on their choice. I taught them how to clean the tables after they finish eating. And the video you will watch, you will see all the effort they exerted to learn not only the digital storytelling, but skills they learned that they never did at home.
And now he's unemployed.
His way of looking for a job, he comes across an extreme traffic.
Since the traffic is horrible by 4 p.m., Mark takes out his phone to check the amount he has to pay for the items he ordered online a few weeks ago.
He then realizes he's going to have a lot of trouble paying for them.
Eventually, Mark gives up and decides to go to a nearby store to have a snack and relieve his stress.
Mark munches a burger in a few seconds and continues to look around, although he knows well his health can't stand becoming more overweight.
As he continues walking, he lights up a cigarette while scrolling through his social media.
Mark then comes up with a brilliant idea. He decides to post his unfortunate story online and request sympathy, and that any job offers would be appreciated.
This was one of the best decisions I've ever made throughout my life. Not only did I get an amazing job offer, but I'm now working in a multi-million-dollar company. I chose to use the power of social media wisely, and I advise you all to do so as well. Here are some of the important morals I hope you've learned from my story.
Very simple and short, and even they added their point of view about the whole thing.
I know we're short in time, but I'd like to welcome any questions. This should have been a much longer session, but I know it's a keynote, it's only 30 minutes. There are a lot of ideas. Yes, please.
Come on up to the mic. Come on up. Introduce yourself, say hello. We've seen you on stage already, but maybe some people don't know you. Good to see you.
Hello everyone, this is Dr. Mary from Hong Kong. Thank you for sharing a lot of the ideas and everything you shared, because those children that I've seen, they're older ones, but I'm handling the younger ones. So there's always a problem that I come across. It's like digital, everything's on media, right? Like YouTube and stuff. And once they started working on those contents and material stuff, and then it's difficult for me to drag them back. So that's why every time I have to pay really extra attention to how to find the line, how much I should implement those multimedia.
Okay, with the younger ones, I would suggest the storytelling part, because in the circle time, you have circle time in the morning. That's very essential.
Yes. But I'm mentioning this about because now the way of learning is quite different. Like sometimes, especially children from Hong Kong, they try to avoid in-person learning and try to move things online. Even though 6-year students, 6 years old, 7 years old, they're still aiming at online classes because the parents don't need to drop them to schools and stuff. So you are forced to use interactive elements online, right? So you can't really see them in person. So you try to be interactive, and at the same time, you worry that they will drown into those,
Well, that's the thing. You have to balance between because the personal touch of a teacher is essential. I mean, nothing can replace the personal touch of the teacher with the child, especially with the young ones. We do not want them to depend totally on technology, with all due respect for technology and what it has done in the learning or education industry. But there's still that teacher who has the passion to give them to convey to them the learnings there. So start always with circle time. Have them tell you stories. You start with yourself first, and then they will also share their own stories. And then see how you can pick and choose from their stories and your stories and put it into a digital storytelling. Yep. Okay, this is Mark's story of his weekend with his at his grandma's place, or so and so. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. So that's why now I'm actually always encourage them. You better come back for the in-person, school environment. That's what I know is lack of, and I'm trying my very best. And now what I can do is those ones who are not willing to come back to do face-to-face classes, I have to go home visit every few months to ensure that I see them, I talk to them in person. Yes, but yeah, it's challenging.
It is challenging with I have my 1-year granddaughter who is watching stories on her iPad or her mother's iPad, and I don't like that. It's you read a story to the child, not have them watch it on.
Thank you very much.
You're most welcome.
Thank you for your question. Thank you, ladies. Very insightful. Give them a round of applause.
Thank you.
Wonderful. And as you can see, this audience really has a huge range of interests. So